All right, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. All right, guys, welcome back to another video about ALS and the UE framework. And today, I thought that I would start out by introducing the UE framework, and then in the later videos, we can start getting more into how it ties in with the advanced locomotion system for C++, and we can discuss different ways on developing inside of it, and we can also grow together and learn how to develop inside of the ALS framework. So some of the things that I want to talk about first is I have some news coming down the pipeline. I will be doing a gameplay abilities integration with ALS CPP, C++. So for all of you who are interested in this integration, it will be there. It will be in single player version. However, if you have the ability to make it into multiplayer, it's quite easy to do. I just want to show you the base of it in single player because it's a little bit more easier for people who are new to the channel and probably they don't want to mess with multiplayer. But for those of you who can, you can actually see where you need to go in the ALS code to put put the gameplay abilities system in and how to activate the plugin. Okay, so let's talk about the series of videos and what's gonna go on and sort of the future of this channel. Well, I started this channel by just reaching out to a friend who needed some helpful advice, and I thought what better way than to make it a channel and just start sharing the information with the world. So that's probably what I want to do. So every time I guess a friend or another developer has a question, I'll probably just throw it into YouTube for other people to decipher. And I think this is really good because it can help the community grow. Another thing about these videos, if you find that they're too beginner, that's okay, because even a 10-year vet can go back and look at some of the things and look at sort of some of the information and see that they missed something or they didn't understand something quite fully. But just to let you know, the first series of these videos will be more prone to beginners because I want to make it so that everybody can understand. And so that's why we'll be kind of switching back and forth to ALS and trying to see how everything ties in. So the first series of videos, after I finish releasing them, just keep with this channel, and if you like it, go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button because it's really going to help me. So just stay with the videos, even if you find that, hey, I already know that information, just go ahead and stay with it. The first videos, though, they're going to be more lectured based so that we can kind of get an understanding of what's going on. So without further ado, let's go into the UE framework. So here's the first thing to understand is that why is it important for you to understand or to be knowledgeable about the UE framework? Why can't you just buy an asset and go make a game? Okay, that's a good question, right? And how can it benefit your project? What are the pros and cons? In this short video, we're going to try to talk about these things, and we're going to try to talk about the UE gameplay framework. So let's move on. All right, so as you can see, the gameplay framework has a lot of different pieces to it, a lot of different classes to it. My goal is to go through most of these and discuss how they relate in the framework, and so that you can have an understanding of so you can have an understanding of it. So today we're going to simply begin with the U object, and we're going to see what's important about the U object and how it relates to Unreal, and then I'm gonna just dive into how it can relate with also using ALS C++. All right, so let's move on. So the first thing on the menu is the U object, and the next thing that we're going to get into later is the actor component, player controller, and so on. So let's move on. So the big question is why? Why do we need to learn the gameplay framework? What importance is it? And I have a marketplace asset. I'll just use that. I'll use the template, I'll use the kit, and I don't need to bother with this information. However, hear me out. Knock on wood, it's important for you to learn the gameplay framework, because if you don't learn the gameplay framework and you do buy one of these assets, and let's say you're new or you are a developer, you may feel a little overwhelmed. So it is important that this is one of the first things that you learn. Even if you already know even if you know a lot about it, you can still learn something new. There's always a chance to learn something new in a beginner video. All right, so let's also talk about some cons. And Unreal's huge. It's a really huge framework, and ALS using that is also huge as well. But hear me out. It's complicated, but that's why we're going to break it down. We're going to break down the pieces. It's like making bread. Think about it this way. When you make bread, you don't try to understand how the flour is made, right? You're not trying to understand how the yeast is made. You just want to know the ingredients. Think of the Unreal Engine like that. Think of one of the ingredients being ALS, the locomotion framework that gets your character to move at a better locomotion than it were using it out of the box. So think about it that way. Think about it this way as well. Unreal provides a lot of boilerplate code to get started. So the steps are there, and whatever another chef or another mechanic already did, he laid the blueprint and the foundation for you. So it's like, if you can think about it, it's like a car. I've already made a car, but I want to show you how to make it the quickest and the most precise way. And this is what Unreal tries to do. Okay, this is what the guys at Epic try to do. They try to say, we made games, we know how they're made, we've been successful at them, and here's what we think you need in your game. So if you're using our engine, then these are some of the things that you need to think about if you're going to make an engine. And that stuff that I showed you, the actor component, the player controller, those are probably all things that will reoccur, or all the classes that you will probably need if you want to move forward with building in Unreal. Okay, so let's move on. At the top of all of that, which I showed in the other slide, there's something called the U object. Think about the U object as the top guy. He's the guy who's in charge. You know, if you've got the big boss, the CEO, he's the guy that's in charge of everything. Think about it that way. That's what the U object is. If you don't have that at your base, I'm sorry, but you're probably not going to have a UE game. That's why it's so crucial. The Unreal object, or U object better to say, is at the base, and it is the parent class, the big kahuna, the big guy. So just think about it that way when you're thinking about Unreal Engine. Okay, so some caveats to understand, some things to understand about the Unreal Engine U object. Some things to understand. First of all, the U object cannot be spawned into the world, and it can't be used to render visual scene objects. Okay, that's kind of the thing that you need to think about. So there's some pros and cons to using this, directly using a U object you need to think about if you're trying to directly use it. And remember, another thing about it is that it's the parent guy. So remember, if you looked at some of the UE training videos and they're talking about two parent classes and how they interact with each other and how you would be breaking the hierarchy in Unreal, this is another thing to think about. You always want to be deriving from this U object. Another thing that to add to it is that, like, if you actually need to use a U object, then you probably need something at runtime, right? Or your structs are not sufficient enough and you need something else to store data, then go ahead and use the U object if you feel comfortable with using it. Okay, so let's move on. So as you can see, I just made a simple A action character, which is just from the template, the third person template, and I just made this, and I wanted to show you the inheritance of where it derives from. So as you can see, my character, that guy that's moving around, he comes from the A character. Well, let's say, where does the A character come from? The A character comes from the A pawn. Okay, so we're talking about parent-child. Here we go. All right, now where does the A pawn come from? Let's think about it. Okay, so let's first think about it this way. If the character comes from the A pawn, then the A pawn comes from the A actor. So the A actor, think about the A actor as being as someone on the top, someone just right there. But I'm here to say that there's someone else who's a little bit higher than the A actor. That would be the U object. He's at the top, like I told you before. And as I am telling you about the U object, there are some certain things that you need to know about it. It's the base class of all UE objects, and it also is the type of an object that is defined by the U class. Also to note that this U object, which is in the source, has supporting functions for creating and using objects, and also virtual functions that should be overwritten in the child classes. So just remember, should be overwritten in the child classes. So let's get back to why it ties into ALS or why it ties into other frameworks. Well, look at this U actor component in the engine. It derives from the U object. And so if you were to make actor component that was deriving from this, ultimately it would derive from the U object. So if you get rid of the U object, then unfortunately you're not going to have this actor component because they're children. Okay, so let's move on. And also, you would not have the combat component that I made because they all derive from this U object. So this is something to digest and to keep in your mind. Keep in your mind. Okay, because we're going to be exploring these things a little bit, but this is just a quick dive in. All right, so the U object can't be spawned like actors. However, you can use the new object template class, which you can spawn at runtime. And here's some of the code for how it works. I'm not going to get into like piece by piece, but if you're a programmer, you should know what this is. Basically, you're getting this my U object, and you're pointing over here to this thing for your new object. Just so you can know that I'm not going to get into all the semantics or specifics, but just so that you can see it and that it's here. Okay, guys. So let's move on. All right. So some of the key points that we can take away from this. If you can find a use case for using a custom U object, then use it. But sometimes, in light of that, if you're a beginner and you're trying to create one of these U objects, you might not feel so comfortable with it, but that's okay. There's plenty of other things in the engine for you to create your stuff, okay, for you to create your framework. So you can actually just inherit from it and use other stuff that's already been created in the engine. But if you feel a little bit comfortable and there's something that you really, really need, then go ahead, by all means, use it. And here's another thing. Mostly we will be using what is already built in the engine, like I've said before. This is normally for the more advanced UE programmers who have a better understanding of Unreal Engine. But again, if you feel that, hey, look, man, what you're saying, I used it the other day and it worked fine, then by all means, go ahead and use it. Like I said, it depends on what you're doing. There is no yes, don't, and there is no no. Remember, it all depends on that use case. And here's another thing to remember, that it's used also for networking and also for data storage. Okay. However, some of this will require a little bit of extra work. All right. So remember, without the U object, you can't use Unreal's framework. It's at the top of the chain. So again, without the U object, you can't use ALS CPP. It's at the top of the chain. You can't have all those fancy turns, those fancy blend spaces, none of that stuff, because the U object is missing. And some of the source material that I used today, if you want to look at it, is you can go directly to Unreal Engine and you can look at their stuff, or you can just jump into Tom Lumen's C++ framework and just look at that. Tom has been around the community for a while, and he has a lot of good examples. He also has a course out there, so if you're interested in like making your own like gameplay ability system and you want it multiplayer, please check out Tom Lumen's course, because it's a pretty good course and I suggest it for anybody. Another thing, guys, that I want to talk about is as we move forward and as we grow with each other, everything that I'm saying, please go on the internet and just try to search for it. Try to go beyond this tutorial and try to understand it. And the more you understand what the U object is, the more you can understand how it works in Unreal, and the more you can understand about ALS. So without anything else to say, guys, I just want to say that I am so happy that I was able to share my information and my knowledge with you, and I hope that as a channel we can grow together, and I hope that there are more channels out there who are actually going over stuff that is a part of the advanced locomotion system because it's so popular. And I hope that together we can kind of collaborate, and we can all just learn from each other. And just, guys, just stay positive about game development, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I know a lot of developers who have been developing for quite some time, and it's taken them years to develop their game, but they've made a game, regardless if it's Unreal or Unity. Guys, look, just make a game and put it out there. And if you want some kind of support on this channel, I will make an area for you to reach out to me so that we can talk about these certain things, okay? But at this point, guys, please just stick with it. Keep grinding, doing what you're doing, and know that no matter what your game looks like, no matter what others think about it, that it's still a good game, and that you are developing, and that you are a game developer. So without anything else to say, guys, just thank you and have a good day. And I hope everything is right with you, your families, and just have a good day and try to treat others right. All right, guys, thank you very much. And I will talk to you, or you will be watching my video soon, and I will talk to you through my video soon. But anyways, have a good day.